Are you looking for ways to manufacture value in your property portfolio or in your own home to fast track your wealth creation and build a portfolio faster? In this day and age, it seems impossible because building prices are so high. But in this video, I'm going to be taking you through 7 ways that you can add value to your property or your investments to fast track your wealth creation, pull out more equity, and go again in growing your property portfolio. Now, my name's Luke, and I talk all things real estate, renovating, and financial freedom. If you are interested in buying a property in Southeast Queensland in the next 3 to 6 months, then head over to purposeproperty.com.au to book in a free chat with myself. We're going to sit down, have a chat, talk about how we can help you secure a property in the future and continue growing your asset base. But Emily and I have a history in renovating. We've bought and renovated every single property in our portfolio. It started with 3 houses here in Brisbane, then a unit block in Coffs Harbour. We bought 2 more properties last year, which we're continuing to add value to. And I have another property in the works to look to continue that wealth creation journey. Now, for most everyday Australians, growing a property portfolio to 5, 6 properties may seem unachievable. But if you can get from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, that's when you can really start snowballing. You're going to control a $2 to $3 million asset base. And that's where people start getting that compounding growth. And so adding value can be a fantastic way to fast track you to pull out that equity, to get more rental returns on each of those deals, and then start to look to add cash flow in the future. So I have hands-on experience doing this. If you want to go back through the YouTube channel, you can find the Baby Queenslander renovation series, Triple Gable renovation series, this property here, the unit block in Coffs Harbour. So let's kick off with the first item and probably what I would say is one of the biggest, and that is a fresh coat of paint. Now you can paint an entire property inside and out, and that could add tens of thousands of value from the market's point of view. Painting takes a lot of time, and so it's hands-on, it's tedious, and it actually takes a little bit of skill. Once you've done it for about 20, 30 hours, you're going to get better at it. But it does mean you need to lay drop sheets and you need to do a decent job. Now, I'm not saying you need to paint, like Michelangelo, and, you need to create beautiful masterpieces. Near enough is good enough. And that's where I think some people get a little bit too unstuck, is if you want to get your hands dirty and you want to add value quickly, let's say you're going to buy the paint and materials is going to cost you $1,500 to $2,500. If you got a painting quote, that could be $10,000. So for somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000, you might be able to do the job yourself. And if you work backwards and you've got the time and you're not working a second job or third job, and you've got the weekends or you've got a partner like Emily and I were on board to do it with you, and you haven't got kids, it's such a great opportunity. If you haven't got kids, it gets so much harder with children. But if you can paint yourself, you can save so much money. Now, a couple of recommendations to make this a lot easier and to make you a lot more money. Don't be a perfectionist. Like I said, near enough is good enough. And I would recommend not doing it while you live in the home. So clear the house out, paint the whole thing in one go. And so make sure it's a really intense block of renovating rather than spreading that renovation out over 12, 20 weeks. I would recommend you don't renovate for any more than 4 to 6 weeks and try and condense it right down. Now, you don't need to do 15-hour days. You can do a 9-hour day. Or if you're going in after work, this is how I used to do it. I used to go in with Emily. We'd come into here, into this house and the previous properties we'd renovated. We'd tape the windows up at night with plastic. We'd do all the taping on the floors and the door handles. And then we prepare to paint on our Saturday and Sunday. Ideally not on Sunday if possible, because I always need a rest by day 7. And so if you can buy a paint sprayer, then you can save yourself so much time. And I like to use white on white on the walls and white on white on the ceilings. And you can actually tint your ceiling paint to match your wall color. So this is the insider's guide. Get a paint sprayer, a Wagner Control Pro 350M from Bunnings if you want the specific one that I use. It's going to set you back maybe $1,500. Buy your paint, that's another $1,500. And you can paint an entire house in a week or 2. And it's not going to take you that long because you don't have to cut in the trims. You can tape everything up during the weeknights and then spray on your Saturday and then come back the next week and do the same thing again. And there's your multiple coats of paint. And you're going to add for your $3,000 to $5,000 worth of painting $10, $15, $25,000 plus in today's day and age because of how expensive it is to get trades and to get them to do the job for a reasonable price. I've yapped on enough about painting. Let's move on to number 2 when it comes to renovating and adding value to a property. It's flooring. And so again, another thing that you can do yourself. I've done so many different floors. I've sanded floors. I've sealed them with polyurethane. We've used companies to come in and lay carpet and vinyl, and we've done hybrid here in our own home. I would recommend, based on experience after doing 6, coming on 7 renos now, myself and with trades, outsource this one. Yes, you can sand floors like I've done, and yep, you can save an extra couple grand, but getting most floor sanders, they'll do a whole house for about $3,000 to $4,000. Now, when you look at the savings of you actually going to Bunnings and hiring a floor sander and doing it yourself, you might spend a couple days and $1,000 in materials and hire. So the disparity is not as much as you get with the painting. And so in my experience, if you've got the money, go out there and pay the trades to do vinyl flooring through the entire home is ideal. Or if you want to be a little bit cheaper, carpets in the bedrooms, very basic carpets, and then vinyl everywhere else. I've done carpets and vinyl in the most recent project in our Bray Park Bomb. And I've done floor sanding in a lot of the Queenslanders we've bought. And we've done hybrid flooring in our own home here. And so in my experience, once you've done the paint, do a nice warm flooring. If you do the white on white paint, which is a bit more cool and modern, then do a warmer flooring. I can even show you my floors here. There you go. Look at that. Little ripper. And so these floors are a warm kind of color. They're, I don't know what they're called, Tassie Oak or something along those lines. I think these are black butt actually. So get yourself some warm flooring, match it up with your paint, and then this takes us into our third key tip for renovating, which is the kitchen. The house needs a central point, and that tends to be the kitchen. Now, there's 2 levels of kitchen renovations that I'd recommend. It's your absolute DIY basic, and so that's where you're going to resurface and repaint all the cupboards using a laminate DIY renovators paint. Take all the handles off, laminate paint it yourself. You're doing that or with a painter for less than $1,000. And then you're putting in some new appliances, a new cooktop, a new oven, maybe some new tapware, and you're giving your kitchen a refresh for maybe $2,000 or $3,000. Now, if your kitchen is rubbish, like a lot of our reno properties that we buy are, you're gutting that kitchen out and you're starting again. If you're going to do it DIY before paying an installer, I'd recommend IKEA. They are fantastic for their kitchens. They're quite easy to put together as a DIY renovator. Or you can even pay trades who do IKEA installations or get a custom kitchen. But what I found in experience for our properties is IKEA kitchens with an IKEA specific installer tends to be quite cost effective and give you quite a high-end look because you can get the stone bench tops for those nicer properties and those nicer areas, pay an extra $1,000, and you're getting it installed by professionals. And so there's those 2 levels, either DIY, kind of laminate paint the old kitchen if it's in okay condition and do some new appliances, or you're gutting it and you're doing a new kitchen, but you're probably going to outsource it unless you're super handy or you've got the time. And you're getting, in my opinion, IKEA over Caboodle. Sorry, Bunnings. I just don't rate the Caboodle system as much as I do IKEA. Now, whenever you talk about kitchens, that leads you to talk about bathrooms. Again, another really expensive area in most homes. I've just had to do a shower in one of my investment properties, and that set me back $4,500 to gut it out, start again, replaster, re-waterproof, new tub, new tray, all those things, new glass. Anyway, so you're looking at an expensive job when it comes to bathroom renovations. I think the same thing. You can do the DIY or you can do the full gut job. Bathrooms tend to be more expensive. If you're going to gut the whole thing, you're looking at $30,000 to do a whole new bathroom. If you can replace the vanity, you can replace the mirror, and you can replace the shower screen, that's where for $3,000 to $5,000, you're going to get your biggest bang for buck. You're going to get the biggest return on your investment. So replace the vanity, replace the mirror, and replace the shower screen. That's going to change it and bring that property or bring that bathroom in particular into the 2020s, because a lot of these bathrooms are built in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Well, that's when they were last renovated. Hopefully you've not got a 1900 bathroom or it's probably falling apart. But that's where bathroom renovations can really blow out if you've got to do the whole thing. So look for a property that's in decent nick in terms of the bathroom, doesn't need new waterproofing ideally, and that you can change those key items, and that's going to add the most value. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty. Number 5 is electrical. Now, this can be a money pit when it comes to doing electrical work, unless you're an electrician, of course. But lighting upgrades, I get asked a lot, Luke, should I do LEDs throughout the entire home? And my short answer is no, unless it's $1 million plus property, it's not going to be worth it. So ideally, you're changing a few light fixtures, making them more modern. I like to go with the basic Oyster lights. They give you good light for a rental property and they're relatively cheap, $100. In the bathrooms, again, just a combo mixer with a heater and a normal light and a vent is perfect. And that's where I think you get the most value for lights. Now, in changing light switches and GPOs or electric points, that can also change the look of the property immensely. If you're giving the whole property a repaint, maybe ask your electrician how much it is to change each power point and each switch. And if you upgrade all the switches in the home, it can actually make it feel a lot more modern. That might set you back, say, $50 a switch. So maybe you've got 20 switches to change and it's $1,000. For that $1,000, you could even get a mate, who's a sparky on the weekend to do it for you a lot cheaper. But the plastic is only like $5 to $10. And so every switch you can change, you're going to make the look and feel a little bit nicer. I'd also recommend air cons. In Southeast Queensland, it's quite hot. They're going to be depreciable. You can depreciate that asset and you're going to get a better quality tenant when it comes to renting out that property. So those would be my key recommendations from the lighting and electrical side. Now we're moving to an area that is quite neglected, and I think some of my properties I'm actually looking at doing some of these fixes soon. And this is the exterior of the home. I've got a property, the Shayla Park property, which I've shown on the YouTube channel before, and I'm actually thinking of rendering the front home at a later date. Not right now, but in the future. And so if I was to sell, rendering the front home could actually add a lot of value because it's going to improve the curbside appeal. So when it comes to the exterior, a lot of people can blow out the budgets. Oh, should I clad the home even though it's brick? Or should I redo the roof or gutters? These areas are generally low return on investment. You want to stick to the cosmetics. What do I see with my eyes? What's going to really make a wow factor compared to what's currently there? So using my Shayla Park property as an example, there's just cladding at the front door. You walk up to the front door and there's literally cladding boxing the front in. So can we open the front up, make a lot more light come into that area, put a nice pot plant out there if we're going to sell it or we're going to stage it? Can we render the home for, say, $10,000, but it really makes it look much nicer from the curb? Instead of a little wide fence, can we just pull that down? Do you even need it? Or can we go with a basic picket fence to really give it more curbside appeal, which is waist high? And you can even get fences that are waist high already pre-built, and you just kind of knock the posts in and you're off and away. It doesn't need to be a really heavy duty structure. So those are, for item number 6, that'd be my key takeaways, is stick with the basics on the cosmetic view and don't go too much into the roof, the gutters, those low return on investment items. Now we're coming to number 7. Before we reach our bonus one, talking about square meter rates, which I'm going to give you some really insider information at the moment on builders' prices for square meter rates for new builds. But the last one is equity harvesting after you've done all this hard work. It's all well and good to do the kitchen, do the bathroom, repaint floor. But if you don't understand the finance game behind all this hard work, then your money might be going to waste. And so this is where you need to partner with a good broker and a good bank and even a good strategist if you're working with someone like myself, who can talk you through structuring the property portfolio to pull out the equity once you've added value and go again. And so number 7 is equity harvesting the right way. And for me, if it's your own home and you've added value, you might have some bad debt attached to your own home, which means it's non-deductible debt, and that debt is because you own the property and you live in it. Say you've done some renovations for 6 to 12 months. It looks beautiful and you're not going to sell and do the next reno and capital gains tax free. You're going to keep it and you love, in my example, my family home, I'm not going anywhere. But at the moment, I'm in the process of pulling out close to $1 million after doing these major renovations, lifting the house, building underneath. I actually did some of the painting. This room, it's probably not that well painted, but you get the idea. And so once you've added value to the property, you need to find the right broker or bank to make sure you've got the serviceability, get good bank valuations, and then pull out the equity. So in this example, this home's worth close to, say, $2 million, and say I've got $600,000 worth of debt as an owner-occupier. So I might be able to pull out $1 million, which increases my debt to $1.6 million, but maybe I can't do that with NAB or CBA. And so my broker needs to partner me with the right lender to pull out that $1 million cash. And that's exactly what I'm looking to do. And then I can go buy more property. I can maybe build some granny flats. I can boost my cash flow, rejig the portfolio, and go again. Now, those are huge numbers. And if I go back to 2020, when we did our first investment property renovation, and we spent about $35,000 doing each of those items as DIY renovators, we were getting a 2x to 3x return on our DIY renovations. We spent 35 grand, we probably got about 3x. So we probably got about $120,000 uplift, not even potentially, but it enabled us to pull out $30,000, $40,000, $70,000, plus add a little bit of savings. And that's how we were able to buy our third property, which is this home right here. And we did the same thing again before we've done these big renos. We did another 50, 60K reno, got 2 to 3 times our money in value, and we're able to refinance that equity and go again. So those are my key 7 tips when it comes to cosmetic renovations and adding value. Now, the bonus in this video, if you've stuck around this far, is what's going on if you're looking to do new builds. What are the square meter rates if you're looking to add granny flats or do a brand new build like a dual occupancy or even just a basic home? What am I seeing in reality? Because I've actually met with 2 builders today and 2 last week, and I'm getting some really good price guides here in Brisbane at the moment. So what we're seeing is $4,000 a square meter for higher end homes and higher end builds, which is quite expensive. This major renovation I've done, the home's around 200 square meters, and I reckon that's the square meter rate we landed on as well here. For your absolute cheap, as basic as you can get, you're looking at around $2,000 a square meter. So if you're building a 100 square meter granny flat, for example, which is a 3-bed, 1-bath, 3-bed, 2-bath, that's around $200,000, and that's ultra cheap. That's probably basic spec. You can go up there to around $3,000, and that puts you somewhere in the middle. So when people are asking me about square meter rates at the moment, which is a bit of a loose art, I would say $3,000 a square meter is kind of market at the moment. If you can find a good quality builder that does a $2,500 square meter rate and they're not compromising on quality, that's probably what you're looking for an investment grade. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm doing 2 granny flat builds again this year, and I'm about to look to sign contracts in the next 12 weeks. So I'm going to keep you guys up to date. If you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe, because I'm going to share the contracts that I signed, the designs, the size block that I'm building on, and I'm looking at around that $2,500 to $3,000 square meter rate for, say, a 100 square meter granny flat in my example. Now, the smaller you go in square meters, the higher the square meter rate becomes. So if you build a 60 square meter granny, it actually might be $3,300 a square meter, because the cost of trades doesn't really get any cheaper, even though you're losing square meters. And the inverse is true. If you're building a 200, 300, 500 square meter home, you should be able to get cheaper rates depending on the quality of the build, because again, you get more economies of scale because you're building a bigger home. But that gives you a guide. $2,000 to $4,000 a square meter at the moment is a guide, and probably somewhere in the middle for a mid-spec builder. Obviously, the higher end you go, if you're doing a luxury build, you can spend $5,000 plus a square, or whatever money you've got, basically. But for your investors and your owner occupiers, $2,000 to $4,000 is a good range to look at, and then narrow down to the right builder. So I hope you've gotten massive value and you're looking to add value to your property portfolio or your own home to continue growing and creating equity that you can pull out again. And if you want to sit down and have a chat with myself, head over to purposeproperty.com.au to book in a session. And if you want hours of content with me breaking down exactly how to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, you can pick up the course on our website called Invest with Purpose, where I take you through a step-by-step guide on building this multi-million-dollar property portfolio and how it's still possible in today's market. So head over to purposeproperty.com.au and click on course if you're interested in that. So thanks for sticking around. Give this video a click here because YouTube thinks that's the one for you to watch, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.